Good morning again. We are welcome to Vanguard Live. My name is Victor Winka, and it is the midweek edition of Today in the News. Of course, your favorite news analysis program where we look at the major headlines from 5 national dailies, looking at all the talking points from health to politics to current affairs to metro files and all of everything together. And this morning, I have with me, you know who already, the publisher of Ilupeju Today and GRA Today, and then much more recently, Lekki Today, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Dayo Akintobi, very good to have you here again.
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Of course. Straight away to the news. We have them all staring at us, starting from the Vanguard, and then we have the major headline here. Taraba police killings latest. Army captain had 191 phone chats with wanted kidnapper. Army captain had 191 phone chats with wanted kidnapper.
Wow.
That's wild, indeed. You know, we how do we explain this?
Well, all along there's been thoughts of a conspiracy, that there was some sort of an arrangement between the army and this fellow that enabled what transpired to transpire. And now this revelation is lending credence to the possibility of the fact that there was an underlying arrangement.
Okay, you know, sometimes maybe we should be fair to the authorities generally. Maybe an individual, right now, as we can see, the army captain, you know, just an individual in the army.
Yes.
That has this kind of relationship with
Yes. I, without a doubt, I don't think it was a corporate endeavor.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was an individual or a group of individuals acting in their own capacity.
What's 191 phone chats? What could it be? What can that conversation be? I think there should be a leak of that conversation. We should see.
Absolutely. The conversations might not have been recorded, but you can track who called who, when they called who, how long each call lasted. That's why you can be able to quantify and say 191 calls went between this number and this number in a period of 1 month. For you to have had that many conversations is indicative of some sort of cooperation occurring between the two entities.
And also, the police has also been fingered in this case. You know, they said that it was the policeman that allegedly raised the alarm, that alerted the kidnapper that people are coming, and he contacted his own soldier friends, you know, to waylay those people. It's a very, very big chain, and that tells you of the rot, you know, going on in that industry. It's
well, it is systemic, but at the same time, individuals are culpable here. Like we said earlier, it's not the entire apparatus that was involved. Mm-hmm. But if the head is corrupt, or the head of a fish is rotten, the whole body of the fish is rotten. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing here, is that there are pockets of culpability, pockets of corruption that enable this kind of thing to happen.
Let us look at the riders. As we can see there, we have arms dealer saying, I sold 6 AK-47 to Wadume, that's the kidnapper, at 800,000 naira each.
Wow.
6, you know, without we're talking about going to over 4 million. Then we have a policeman accused of giving army false report, arrested. That's it. The policeman accused of giving army false report, arrested. Rifles of slain policemen are with soldiers. That's the villager. You know, yesterday we ran a story of one of the survivors of the the policemen that gave an account, and how he said he was rescued by the villagers, you know, of that community, and all those things. This army captain, where is he right now? Is it in the custody of the police or the army?
There are two different versions of the story. At the moment, it says the army has arrested him and they are interrogating him. On the other hand, we are also hearing that the defense headquarters has him. On the other hand, we're also hearing that the police has him. So we really don't know. The only thing we know for sure is that the kidnapper is at large.
Of course, and then what we also know again that is more dangerous, you know, even to the community and indeed the whole nation. If we have someone at this magnitude still going freely.
Well, what's mind-boggling to me in the rider to that headline is the fact that he could afford to buy 6 AK-47s at 800,000 apiece. That's almost 5 million naira. The fact that he can control that kind of money speaks volumes about the magnitude of his operation. If he's got 5 million in cash to pay for one transaction of arms, you can imagine the kind of money that he's controlling, which means imagine how many victims or how many instances of kidnapping and ransom collecting that he has been engaged in. This is huge.
It looks like you are forgetting the Evans story and then the venture. I think it was even after Evans was caught that it actually became a full-blown business, so to say, because we started seeing them, kidnappers in their trickles, in their little sect everywhere. Because the Evans case became very, very revealing, and it looked like it was really so I don't know, I don't want to say adventurous now, it's very industrious also.
We were actually very close to the Evans story because his last kidnapping victim was kidnapped in Ilupeju. Was actually the MD of a pharmaceutical company located in Ilupeju, and he actually kidnapped him just a few yards away from our office.
Was that the person that mentioned the $1 million ransom?
Yes. Absolutely. The last victim, the one who actually escaped and blew the alarm, was an MD located in Ilupeju. And that very evening when he was kidnapped, we actually saw his Jeep along the side of the road with the doors open. But at that point, we didn't know what actually happened. We just knew there was an incident. There's this Jeep abandoned by the side of the road. The doors are open. It turned out later that Evans had actually just crossed him, pulled him out of the vehicle, kidnapped him, took him to somewhere in Alimosho, and now started making these ransom demands, which his family had actually paid the first tranche. So we're very close to the Evans story.
This is indeed, I don't know. it is looking like we're starting all over afresh again right now.
Absolutely. His capture revealed the depth of the industry and how surely lucrative it could be for some people, and I think it also galvanized a lot more risk takers to enter into that line of business.
Of course. And at some point Evans was saying that he had to stop armed robbery for kidnapping because it was less lucrative. Yes. He said a lot.
Yes, he did. Unfortunately, and I won't say the media is at fault, the Evans story glamorized this industry. It made it look attractive to people who are taking higher risks for less reward. In this case, it seemed to be a lower level of risk for a higher reward, and that's what came out from the whole Evans story. And that probably brought a lot of lookalikes.
Okay, but then again, how would we have covered the story? It became it became larger than life. Before then, I'm not sure there had been anybody else that ventured into kidnapping in such a full scale. Now I'm recalling part of that story where people say that he has a sect of people in departments taking care of different things. They don't know each other. They only receive calls. He doesn't call. He has they got a lot of GSM phones.
He was using Thuraya.
He was using Thuraya, yeah, and then he had other ones that he used to call different groups. This is in charge of logistics, this is in charge of transportation, this is in charge of... He has, and he would not miss. You understand? It became... So how would we, just maybe, now Wadome is about to be arrested, I'm sure, that's really close to arrest right now. How would you have preferred the media to cover this kind of case?
Well,
because we are going to talk about how much he has made from this business, and it becomes more lucrative.
Yes, perhaps we shouldn't have emphasized so much the spoils of his nefarious activity. I think by showing the houses, the cars, the jewelry, his fancifully dressed wife, and things that seem to glamorize his mystique, that made it look like he was living large, and sending the wrong message, because the youth of the country today are very swayed by visual images. That's why they have this hip hop lifestyle, champagne wishes and caviar dreams kind of a lifestyle that's glamorized by much of the music and entertainment industry in Nigeria today. So when we are condemning somebody for ill-gotten gains, I don't think we should emphasize the spoils of that activity.
Perhaps you should probably focus more on the victims. Who are they? What happened? What's their connect? Who else? Of course, it's going to come from a publisher. Okay, and indeed, and I think this is a very big thing to look at right here, because now that you said it begins to make a lot of sense.
Yes, although I will also say that some of the victims are sometimes hesitant, because we tried to reach out to the last victim of Evans, who happened to be an Ilupeju-based entrepreneur, and we tried to reach out to him to tell his story, and of course he was too spooked by what happened to be in the public view, so he just shied away. He did tell his story eventually, I guess, after he had gotten over the trauma, But when we approached him as the local media where it happened, he kind of was like, please, I don't want any publicity. I'm too scared that they might come after me again and things like that. So sometimes it's very difficult to get the victims to tell their story to where you can actually focus on their plight.
So indeed, I get it. Okay. So I think we'll move on from that, and then we'll go. That story is on page 5, and of course it is richly, analyzed on page 5 of the Vanguard this morning. So we move away from that, from one kind of let me say killings now. Let's just go straight to Sowore here on page 42. Before his arrest, why Nigerians due for revolution? That's Sowore. Why Nigerians. Before his arrest, of course, it means this interview was conducted just before he was arrested. Why Nigeria is due for revolution? Is Nigeria due for revolution? This is Sowore speaking. Do you think Nigeria is actually due for revolution?
Nigeria is due for wholesale change. We need to, as I say, we need a reset slap. We need a shot in the arm that will galvanize true change. I mean, a lot of things are amiss at the moment. There's insecurity in the land, there's poverty, there's youth unemployment, there's crime. We need a change of direction. We need a different type of commitment from our leaders at all levels, not just the federal, state, even local community leaders. We all need to reset our thinking and our orientation. And the people also. It's not just about the leadership. We, the people, are a reflection of the leadership we get.
Yes, of course.
So we also need to have a wholesale change of attitude towards our approach to things. We need to be more disciplined, we need to be more committed, we need to be more selfless, we need to be more honest, we need to have integrity, we need to be our brother's keeper. There are a lot of things we need to apply ourselves a little bit more. And I think that in a wholesale way is what is being referred to as a revolution. Maybe the term was a bit too strong, but I think the notion of a revolution is just saying we need wholesale change.
I think this looks like a foundational fault now that you've spelled everything out in this letter, that I'm beginning to think that where do we start from? Where do we pick it from? Like you said, maybe it begins with an individual. But then again, what am I changing? How do I go about it? Because if we really want to, tackle corruption as it were, then we start going to institutions, and some of the things that happen, you want to get your driver's license, they want you to appear for capturing, they want you to appear for road test, but there's a way you can sidetrack all of those things and get it. Yeah? I
don't know anybody who's done a road test in the last decade.
You get, okay.
And yeah, we all have valid
we all have valid license. Needless to say, some of us may not be good enough on the road, and hence we have road accidents and all of those things. That's aside. Then you go to another sector before you get admission. I said it before that when I was serving somewhere in the East, I've seen a recommendation from a senator, to a unity school, saying that, asking that one candidate for JSS, one student, must be picked. From a senator. Yes, I saw that letter. I just somehow was just but I saw it, I don't mention name, but I think I still have that name of the senator there. And you can imagine, if JSS one student have to get a recommendation from a senator to get to unity school, it tells you of the road. So it is too big that you begin to ask yourself, that where do we pick it from?
Well, I think it has to start from the individual. I think that as a people, if we begin to change individually, then the family changes, then the community changes, then the city changes, the state changes, the country changes. I think the individual component, the component unit, the basic component unit is the individual. I think, for example, I don't doubt, and I don't think anybody in this country doubts, that President Buhari is a straightforward, honest, non-corrupt person. However, him alone cannot tackle corruption because he can't be everywhere all the time, and this corruption is systemic. In fact, I venture to say the corruption is less at the top and worse at the bottom. Right. So how is he going to attack it all the way from the top all the way to the bottom? So I think it is a bottom-up approach.
Indeed, we must be ready for a decade, half a century, kind of reorientation. And it looks like nobody wants to wait for that long anymore. But of course, that's on page 42. Before his arrest, why Nigeria's deal for revolution, coming from Sowore on that one. And we move away to page 8. Yes, page 8. Let's see. It says, why we stopped forex for food imports. President Buhari. Why we stopped forex for food imports. Good decision, do you think?
Absolutely. I think it helps our agricultural sector to grow. It enhances the possibility for food security. It also shows up the value of the naira, because the more we were importing food, which we can grow ourselves, the more we are import dependent, the weaker the naira will be. So it's a very good decision.
Say no more. Okay, I think that settles it. And then from page 8 we go to 9, where we have a series of stories. Varsity orders make 3.39 billion on post-UTME tests, screenings. Then let's start from there. That's the school. Okay, making 3.39 billion naira on post-UTME tests, screenings. Of course, we know those that will be top of that list making money. We know the schools everybody wants to go to. Of that apparently they must have made more than the rest. What do they do with this money? This kind of money is almost unaccounted for. Yes, because it is not covered anywhere. Because sometimes when you see the university system clamoring for one money from the federal government and talking about less sponsorship and all of it, they have these ways they make money. You'll be surprised that a school might make close to a billion naira from this one institution. Then you ask, what are they? How are they spending this money?
Well, the subvention they get from the government generally is not adequate to meet their operating costs, so they have to be creative about generating IGR. Yeah. And if this method brings on, you've got some universities who've established businesses. They make bottled water. They have printing presses. Their leaderships have to get creative enough to be able to get additional funds to cover their operating expenses. Many of them, even just their power, what it costs to generate power to run the facilities. The entire subvention from the federal government can't cover their power costs.
Which I totally agree. But like we said, this is an institution where we are expecting them to fine-tune the technological advancement of a nation and then every other thing around it, managerial and all those things. Since the money is not coming, and it doesn't look like there will ever be a subvention that will be enough as it stands. You understand? It means that we have to look inward and ignite that creativity instinct in us. And like you rightly mentioned, have you ever thought about our higher institution looking at generating power for themselves through solar and all those things? They are the ones that teach all those things.
Yes.
Why can't you just put it in play and have a solar, generate your own electricity yourself, and let that cut costs from the government?
Well, yes, of course. Our universities are incubators for innovation. That's the whole purpose of them being there. But the educational system in Nigeria over the years has deteriorated so poorly that now we're just talking about even just getting them through the theory in the classroom and making them at least theoretically competent. There's too much tension in the system to even begin to try to come up with world-class solutions like generating your own power.
Now, I'm just trying to, streamline this problem to say, okay, sometimes we don't have to make everything, we don't have to generalize all the time to say it is just a systemic problem, because indeed it is. But right now, this is a high institution. This is a university that is producing world best in everything. Yes. Why can't they look out for a solution within to take care of 50% of their problems? Because they can.
Yes, they should. They should. Okay. They should be able.
They should be able to. But it is still what it is.
Yes. It's because we have a dysfunctional system.
The system now, or are we talking about the system, the educational system generally, or we're talking about the system from a particular institution?
No, the educational system in general has issues, and once that cancer or that virus is there, it spreads systemically. So even if you're talking about one institution that has $1 billion in UTME fees, you're making a cognitive leap when you anticipate that because they have that volume of money,
coming from just one
institution,
and there is more. No, coming from just one avenue. There is that coming from, like you said, they have their own bread, they have their own guest house, they have their own all those things.
Yes. We should push frontiers of innovation, but where you're coming from, and I agree with you, is that we don't dig deep enough into our creativity. Things like establishing water manufacturing factories and printing presses, they are mundane, run-of-the-mill things that should be beneath a university to do. I understand what you're saying is that we should be able to innovate at much higher levels. Mm-hmm. But when you look at a governor who is beating his chest and claiming credit for having paved a road and built a flyover and 1 or 2 schools, and he thinks he has achieved something, then how would you expect the universities to even do any better than a bottle of water?
Indeed, yeah. It's indeed is bigger than what you would ever think. Okay, and that's on page 9. Yes, page 9 of the Vanguard. Varsity orders make 3.39 billion on post-UTME test screening. Yeah, and still on page 9, India's Shiite to foot El Zakzaki's medical bill. Where is this coming from? Well, what was the arrangement?
Well, I understand that the conditions of his bail, he requested that he wanted to go and treat himself, and it's his obligation to treat him to foot his bill. Because I understand that even the federal government offered to fly him there, and he refused and said he will go commercial and pay his own way, because the conditions of his bill said he should meet his own expenses. Mm-hmm. So now an international organization who is sympathetic to his plight and who probably has religious affiliation with his constituency have offered to pay his bill. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Okay, we look at them. Now I'm beginning to think again of the fear of the Kaduna State government when they came up with all these conditions. they are actually wary of things like this, having an affiliation or building stronger ties with another branch of their religious belief and all of this. So now that it's Indian Shiites that are trying to foot the bill, it is establishing a tie. The
Nigerian constitution guarantees everybody freedom of religion.
Yeah, it does.
You cannot prescribe anybody's right to practice his religion or to affiliate with like-minded people. Now,
one has been prescribed already from the inside.
Well, what was prescribed was not any individual's right to practice that religion.
Of course.
That movement, because of
what it was,
what it stood for, has been prescribed.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move away from them. Start from 8, 9, 10. Let's go to 10, where we have a Papa Gridlock. That's team stakeholders rally to sustain new traffic regime. Yesterday, there was the news that there will be a meeting of stakeholders, and I think it held already, and I think this is the feedback from that news saying tax team stakeholders rally to sustain new traffic regime. What's that strategy? Okay, let's just,
I'm speechless.
Of course, let's just leave a question mark on that one, because it looks like, where exactly are they starting from? What ground are they hoping to cover right now that has not been done already? Because it is almost looking like hope lost already on that place. But of course, there's still going to be a glimmer of hope, and and this is what would wait for them. Then on page 12, Obaseki is my brother, rift created by people for selfish interest. Oshiomhole.
Wow, that Edo conundrum is funny.
Indeed.
Yes.
I'm surprised it lasted this long.
Yes, actually, because I know personally that Obaseki played a role in Oshiomhole's initial emergence as governor of the state, and Oshiomhole paid back by playing a role in Obaseki becoming governor. So I know they are kindred spirits. I know. I actually had cause to be in a conversation once, and somebody once said to me that they heard Godwin Obaseki once say, "I'm a capitalist." I don't know how many of you know that. He's actually a stock market professional. He has his own stock brokerage entity. And when he initially was economic advisor to Oshiomhole, he was alleged to have said, I'm a capitalist, and here I am fraternizing with people who are practically socialists. By right, we don't gel because our thoughts are totally different. But I'm committed to the economic advancement of Edo State. And so I'll subjugate my own personal beliefs to cooperate with that government. And he did. So for him to have been able to put aside his own economic orientation to be able to work with Oshiomhole when he was governor, I believe there is nothing they cannot overcome. There's no difference, there's no disagreement or tension or whatever that they cannot mediate and resolve.
I think the surprise has been that they actually waited for this long, before they look for solution. Good for them, they're back on track. Like I said, I think there was a meeting between them and
over the holiday, Obaseki paid him a consideration. And I think that's good for Edo State.
Really, really good for Edo State. I'm talking about the coming election in the States. Okay, that's page 12. Obaseki is my brother, rift created by people for selfish interest. Get all that news for yourself on page 12 of the Vanguard, and then on page 16, Embrace Ruga, PDP BOT chairman tells Nigerians. Interesting, coming from PDP BOT chairman.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm still trying to make sense of that one because pretty much everybody else has rejected Ruga, and those who have accepted it have said, okay, well, federal government should not subsume our land, but those of us who have land to give will voluntarily. What we don't want is for you to come and impose on us. And among those who are the most vociferous against it were the PDP states.
So we don't know where this. Of course, there'll definitely be a reply to this from somewhere.
I think we need to study that.
Okay, of course. This is where you hang on to Vanguard website www.vanguard.ngr for all the sides of the story, because indeed they will come, and we would sure give you every interest represented on that one. And we have our columnist today. Of course, there's phases at Ojude Oba Festival, one of the biggest in Ogun State and even in Southwest. It's become very traditional. Okay, and column is Dear Bumi on page 30, and we have Affair for Vanguard on page 40. Okay, the back page, let's just run through the sport news before we continue. It's still days of transfer market, still wide open, and Neymar again is in the news. PSG raised Neymar's asking price to 250 million euros. What's wrong with PSG? Just last week, they said they cut the price to 180 million and they've raised it again. If they don't want him to go, let them just say so, okay? And then, of course, Real Madrid and Barcelona are the top liner. Of course, who else would be able to afford a player of 250 million? Unless Man City would want to do what they know how to do. And then, Arsenal undersold Iwobi by £11.3 million. Well, good for Everton then. And Ronaldo, why I'm better than Messi? The controversy and the debate continue. Of course, you should know something about Ronaldo and Messi if you've been watching them.
Yes, I know.
Do you have a favorite?
I think they're both formidable players.
Yes, and we should be proud that this generation, that people like that. But the controversy and the debate of who is better than one is always there. Yeah.
It makes it more interesting to watch.
Indeed, more interesting. But unfortunately, none of them will play in the Super Cup tonight. Yes, because it is Chelsea Liverpool tonight, and it is another battle of the Titans that is coming from England to rule the rest of Europe. So Liverpool Chelsea tango in Istanbul. Istanbul has always been a ground for Liverpool to be proud of, coming from their historic comeback in 2005 when they took on AC Milan from 3 goals down. And they always feel they have a special luck in that place. Let's hope it's going to play out for them, coming from a Liverpool fan. Okay.
Well, for you, I think this season is primarily going to be between Liverpool and Man City. I really think that they're the two teams to watch.
And I'm actually, Premier League. But I'm really, really worried of other teams. Right now they are being comfortable as the underdog, and if they still stay that way, nobody will be surprised. But that makes it even the more dangerous for Liverpool and Man City, because they might just come from behind and just bring some surprises. But of course, it is more going to be more of Manchester than Liverpool. They will always think that. Then the rematch between Joshua and Ruiz, slated for December somewhere at Saudi Arabia. Interesting that Saudi Arabia is getting involved in some of all these things off religious line.
Yes.
No, because having a boxing match firing in Saudi Arabia, nobody would have thought that would ever happen.
This is true, but then remember in the 70s we had Rumble in the Jungle with Muhammad Ali back then. Nobody would have thought Africa would have attracted such a big ticket.
Of course.
I think Saudi Arabia is trying to open itself up. A few years ago, they granted women the right to drive.
Of course.
So I think they're trying to get away from being a completely religious society and open up a little bit. They're trying to diversify their market, their economy from just being oil-based. So I think you'll begin to see more and more of these things. We'll soon see a Grand Prix car race.
Yeah, coming up there. Let's wait till when they say democracy is in Saudi Arabia.
It's coming.
That's where we'll know that, they now belong to everyone. Okay, then Oyekuru must prove himself, coming from Yobo, and the Tigers demolished Cameroon 106-39, qualify for quarterfinals. That is in the African basketball tournament, the Tigers female basketball. This is the second time they are having this very big result. The first one was, I think, Tunisia, they crushed, and it was a very big margin also. Now they're in the quarterfinals. We'll move away from that and to The Guardian. Yes, The Guardian. Police headquarters deny alleged arrests over Taraba killings. Still there. And look at that picture. There's a picture. I don't know if I have that picture of The Guardian.
Yes.
This is reality. We have people. How do you smuggle a little bit into the window of a train?
A moving train.
Probably. Yeah.
Maybe at the station. We really can't tell.
Whichever way.
But either way, it is symptomatic of all that is wrong in this country. For a mother who is clearly protective of her child to be desperate enough to move from point A to point B, that she's actually pushing her child through the open window. It says a lot of things. Number one, probably she couldn't afford the fare to go through the door. Number two, maybe the train is overcrowded and they're not letting anybody else in, and she's that desperate that she has to get on that train, that she would risk the life of her child, risk her own life. It speaks volumes about the degree of poverty in this country and how desperate people are.
It does. Okay, of course the president has promised that he would take 10 million people away from poverty.
He reiterated it yesterday that his second term is going to be focused on lifting people out of poverty.
We just can't wait. So that's one part we are all together not proud of as a people. But something interesting I saw yesterday at Oshodi when I was going home, I saw a train. I think it's around 7 o'clock thereabout. That is when they ply that route. And do you know that for the first time I actually saw the train loaded with containers, just containers, and then about 17, 18, 19 coaches, all containers. And then again it came to my mind that this is it. This could just be the solution to all of the apapa, noise and all those things. If we can just have our means of transportation from that place, then they come one after the other to pick whatsoever is theirs, and they take it to wherever they want to take it to.
Absolutely. Rail is a big panacea to problems of gridlock and degradation of apapa. If we can get it right with the rail,
of course,
it will ease things.
Okay, let's go back from that one to this one where Fani Kayode is saying 8 men have killed over 3,400 persons in 2019. Fani Kayode.
Well, it's difficult to confirm the veracity of his numbers. I don't think he would pull them out of the hat, but because there's just so much news flying out there nowadays, he probably went to Google and just totaled up every report he saw. I know the number is high, but we don't know the exact number. I think what he's trying to say, let's look beyond the numbers.
But he came with specifics. He should have probably said thousands.
Well, yes, but Fani Kayode has always been a dramatic person. He's always been a bit bombastic in his postulations. That's his shtick. That's his own modus operandi. He captures your imagination, captures your attention with his bombast. So thousands is not dramatic enough, but you see 3,741. It's so specific, it'll catch your attention. So let's try and look beyond the numbers and look at the message and say, okay, even if it's one person, it's one too many. That's the truth.
Yeah, indeed. I think I agree with you on that one. And on The Nation this morning, our Marjorie Education government begins fresh pilot test in Kano, Oyo, 7 others. And then, of course, the Forex news is also here on the front page of The Nation. And Sanwo-Olu nominates Igbokwe 12 others. And people think, this is a good reward for Joe Igbokwe's continuous persistence and loyalty to the APC in Lagos State.
Very true, but the larger message there is the fact that Sanwo-Olu is a detribalized Nigerian, and he would nominate a non-Lagosian, non-Yoruba person to be in his cabinet.
And I also read somewhere that I think there's another Northerner also in that team.
Well, that would be brilliant. I'm not aware of that, but that would be brilliant.
Okay, that's the nation for you, and we go straight to the Punch. The Punch, Apapa gridlock. Thankfully, someone else is joining in that Apapa, storytelling that looks like it is all Vanguard's business for a while. Now, Punch, good one. And says soldiers, hoodlums, extortion, frustrating Osinbajo panel. We once upon a time, I think it was 2 weeks ago, the Vanguard had a report on this where they said there's extortion and all those things on the Apapa Expressway and all of all this. I'm very, very happy that the Punch is also doing something about it, and this proves it also. Just hoodlums, extortion, frustrating Osinbajo panel in that place. It is exactly what it is. Yes. And I'm trying to be mentally alert already because I'll be playing that road very soon. And yes, and I don't know what to expect now that the holidays are over. Yes. Then we have Okwei-Ifa saying bribe takers in uniforms are impersonators. This is a defense from Okwei-Ifa saying bribe takers in uniforms are impersonators. What are they? Sometimes when we come and give reasons for some of the things we do, it is even the more shooting ourselves on the foot. Yes. How do we allow impersonators in uniform on broad daylight doing things and nobody's asking questions? Yes. If you know they are impersonators, for how long have you known? Yes. And now that you know, what are they doing about it? Yes. It takes us back to the Taraba incident with the army. One of the things the police said, like you said, too many angles on that story. The police said that they couldn't have waited because at that point they suspected that those are the checkpoints coming from the police security operatives. That the checkpoint was they were not sure if they were actually soldiers, army people. Yes. Coming from the police. The police. That's very, very embarrassing. Of course. For me, and you now think that is a tenable excuse for not stopping. If you are a police officer and you're supposed to ensure that things like this are put in place and it is not put in place, who do we blame?
Yes. If the police don't know about who is manning the checkpoint. Yes, because the police are the chief security officers of each state.
Of course.
The army's primary purpose is to defend the integrity of the country.
It's very sad. And now, Okwei-Ifa saying bribe takers in uniform and impersonators. Are you saying, because right now I'm beginning to picture the last person I saw there on uniform, are you saying that person
could be an impersonator?
Could be an impersonator.
If that's the case, how do you as an innocent passerby begin to suddenly defend yourself or protect yourself from possible
because you still saw those people with rifles on the road and just to say they are impersonators. It's safe to say they are also thieves in uniform. And that's it. Then provide bribery evidence against our boys, says Navy's been dragged into this. And you wonder what are they actually doing on the road too.
Well, because the Navy being in charge of territorial waters, the Navy has a bit of jurisdiction at the ports because that's Nigerian territorial waters. But that does not mean they should be out of the streets coming to have vehicles on the road.
The truth is, for all I've seen, I've never even gotten 5 kilometers closer to the port anytime. This thing starts happening from the rainbow, first rainbow, second rainbow, to mile 2. You understand? And all those places enough. You see everything you need to see happening there. When you get to Beggar Wharf or what they call that, but very close to the front of the gate of the customs. So you have all these people, and that is where the activities is actually happening. Yes. When you see, there was a time we ran a story on open defecation in that place. It is a mess, especially now that you read yesterday. you have to be very careful, otherwise you would want to cut your leg off after stepping on something that is, it is that serious. That's the story. You can get it on the Punch. Apapa gridlock there for you. The ministers will get targets. Experts to man a Greek. Why? We wait. It's next week, yeah? It's supposed to be next week, and we wait for that. And finally on our list today is Daily Trust. Daily Trust is a Buhari to CBN. Stop giving forex for food. Stop giving forex for food. One other edition says why we stopped already. Looks like something that wants to stop. But whichever way, of course, for the reasons you very mentioned, the benefits are out there for all to agree on. Absolutely. On this one. Okay. We can't shut down our ports. Interesting. task force. We can't shut down Apapa Port.
No.
Apapa Port, like we once said on this show, is the second most generated sector for this country after petroleum.
Yes.
So it is too big to shut down.
No, you can't shut it down.
You can't shut down, but they have to take it as seriously as they have been taking petroleum issues.
Yes, you can't shut it down because all the other there's not enough alternatives to even cope with the influx of goods through the ports. All the other ports in Nigeria are not big enough. They don't have the kind of infrastructure. So Apapa is key. In fact, I would venture to say it's key to our very survival because the goods, services, and products that we use to survive on a daily basis pretty much all come through there. So we have to resolve the issues. And it's more of a logistics problem because over time there's much more traffic coming through than used to come through before, but the capacity has not expanded. The additional roads have not been built, additional berths have not been created. So the traffic is not accommodated properly.
But isn't that now to say that we should also take we should beam our searchlights or our developmental lights now to other ports and make sure that we actually start getting the best of them? Because I think it is over-reliance that is one of the problems, bedeviling the present Apapa situation. Too many things. It looks like everything for us, and we actually forgot that there are other ports somewhere.
Yes, but that's been our nature. That's a genetic issue with us. Is that once we find one easy avenue, we relax, get complacent, and forget about all the alternatives. Look at what happened with the oil industry.
I was going to ask if you're thinking about our forefathers and petroleum.
It's a historical deficiency that plagues us. And so, yes, Apapa started out, we got comfortable with it. I mean, we have Onne, we have Port Harcourt, we have Calabar, we have ports other places,
Indeed,
but we've never really developed them to the point of being serious contenders for ships.
That's who we are as a people, and we're not proud of it. I think I should say that. Yes, if you're just joining us, it is still today in the news, and before we round up the show, we go to social media, see what we can pick from there, and of course, we just come back to round up the show. Let's see, we have Wednesday Wisdom, Wednesday Motivation, Wednesday Thoughts. We have Liverpool, breaking news, Messi, JJ, Trevor Noah. I'm surprised Chelsea is not trending. Okay, that means I have liberty to take Liverpool. But then let's start with Wednesday Motivation. Yes, Wednesday Motivation. Ben Walker said, experience is simply the name we give our mistakes. Interesting. And it's quoting something from Oscar Wilde.
Okay.
Yeah, saying experience is simply the name we give our mistakes.
That's true.
That's true.
Very
Yes,
true.
absolutely. Okay, let's see if we get something else. There's something from someone's son. Yeah, that's what he called himself, someone's son. And said you can't be healing and still triggered, afraid, emotional, closed off, unclear of which path to take next, and tender. Healing is not perfection; it's small steps and progress toward becoming you again. Journey with grace through the process. So I think the message is somewhere around healing is not perfection. It's small steps and progress toward becoming you again.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Do you agree with that?
Nice one.
Okay, and let's see if we can take one last one from here. Something from Carabos on August 14. Each of us has a big piece of good news deep within ourselves. The fact that with God's help we have what it takes to meet all upsetting situations and to react creatively to them. Okay, that's that will take on wisdom thoughts. I'm itching to see what people are saying about Liverpool. Okay, Liverpool. It's just footages and there's something not there. So I'll just leave Liverpool. And then there's Nigeria. But finally, before we go, I hope nobody's abusing Nigeria on social media this morning. Okay, Sam Adeyemi would obviously not abuse Nigeria. How many have won elections sharing visions of a developed Nigeria state? Won't people ask, now vision will go job? Shouldn't we citizens get over our prejudices and create the vision of a developed Nigeria now to use as basics to elect and evaluate public officers? I think that also mirrors what you mentioned the other time, that we should even first start from the change we are actually looking for and all of all those things. I've asked several times that we always talk about a better Nigeria. What exactly do we have in our head as a better Nigeria? For some persons, they just want 12 hours electricity.
Yes.
In a day, and that will just do for them. So it looks like we ourselves, we are actually failed ourselves by not having a good picture of the kind of Nigeria we expect, and that is what he's talking about here, and I think he's spot on. And finally, we take Young Otutu to say, in democracy, majority wins the election. In Nigeria, majority are illiterate. Illiterates are minority. Majority are illiterate. The illiterates are minority. The minority are at the mercy of the majority. They have been held captive with poverty, religion, and tribe. So, as long as illiteracy rules, we'll never get it right. This is a big twist, and it's very deep.
Very, very.
See, in Nigeria, majority are the literates. That's correct.
Very true.
And the literates are minority, and the minority are at the mercy of the majority.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, okay. I think we'll leave it here this morning. It's really become a very big, package this morning from every corner, well represented. Thank you, really, for doing this with us this morning, and it's been a very exciting time, like I said, and it is always even the more exciting when we have the publisher of Philip Peju today, Jerry today, and Lucky today with us talking about Mr. Dayo Akintobi. Very wonderful, and of course, we would always ask you to come here again next week.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, my name is Victor Ogwinka, and I've been working with Bankole Idowu and Wogu Dozier on this episode. Don't forget to catch up with all the news on our website, www.vanguardngr.com. So we'll come your way next time. Continue to be a good citizen. See you next time.